So you mentioned a few minutes ago about that you did 10 years in jail.
One of the strongest lessons I think a human being can learn is to learn from someone else's mistakes.
I think that, those fundamentals that existed in communication and persuasion existed before Ziglar, through my time, and will continue forward.
Which would be most universally effective and applicable to business at large that could potentially improve sales worldwide? You know what the answer it gave me was?
Paid to persuade, baby. Bro, I literally, if I didn't have cameras on here, I may have flipped the desk when you gave that answer. I fucking love it. All right, guys, welcome to the Leads to Deals podcast, where we talk about everything from leads to deals, and everything we talk about leads to deals. If you're here, it means you're driven to level up your life, skyrocket your financial success, and master the art of sales, entrepreneurship, and persuasion. We got a true sales stud on the Leads to Deals podcast today. They call him Big Luke. He's a red-blooded American serial entrepreneur, car sales savant, disruptor in the sales education space, founder of the globally recognized sales training program called Paid to Persuade, and also host of the Paid to Persuade podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Big Luke, aka Luke Lunk. How's it going, brother?
I need a recording of that introduction, and it's got to lead everything I do. That was beautiful, brother. Thank you.
You're very welcome, bro. Before we even get into it, I got to tell you, I was doing like diligence last night, and I'm watching the big TV's got you and actually your Ty Lopez one. And my daughter walks in the room, and I said, that young man right there, he's going to be on the podcast tomorrow. And she's like, is he famous? I was like, well, he's known really well in sales. And then the youngest one walks in, Luke, and she goes, he looks like a shark. I said, oh, man. I said, I'm going to tell him that tomorrow. She's like, no, don't tell him. She was like, yeah, because it's like this. I was like, oh, yeah, he's the sales shark.
It.
So
I'm just happy there's still anything up there, brother. So I'll take dorsal fin or road cone. I don't care.
I know the feeling. Bro, I've seen your talent. I've kind of gone through the DNA, and I'm really, really excited about this, Luke. I want to ask right out of the gates, though, where you're at today, what other industry, if you were like, hey, no more, I can't, I'm banned. Like, you've sold too many car sales. The car sales commission says this guy's disrupted it too much. What other industry would you take your exact sales skill set into?
I would try to help people that are in recovery with addiction.
So on the personal side or on the like enrollments of people? Walk me through that.
Basically, what I've learned, man, is the ability to sell, persuade, influence, negotiate, close, whatever you want to call it. Get somebody to see it your way through conversation and discourse can solve just about any problem in your life with the exception of cancer. And sometimes it can be solved by talking the doctor into giving you the treatment that's experimental, right? I have learned throughout the course of my life that the ability to get people to see things my way, or at least come together on something to move to the next step in the process is magical. So what I would do is I would try to apply that skill. If I couldn't use it to monetize, I would try to apply that same skill set, because it is the most powerful thing in this world, to people and help them get better. And the one thing that would be nearest and dearest to me would be the addiction recovery space, because that's where I come from.
Yeah, I know that living in South Florida, where I was at, we used to recruit a lot. I had a big monster call center down there, Luke. And then I got exposed to the underbelly of that, like the nefarious part of the recovery space, where there was legit phone rooms down there that were literally just banging, calling on Ohio, Michigan, New York, and just recruiting kids down there. And a lot of these call centers weren't actually in it for the right reason. They were literally just lining up bodies if they didn't have the right insurance or didn't have the right family members. So like, I've seen that side of it. And so having a good voice in it, because it's like make or break. And the kids that did successfully recover, beasts on the phone, bro. Like, you've been through some shit when you've recovered and you're able to find a skill set. Because for the first time in a long time, you feel like you're worth something.
I would agree with you, brother. And another thing that I tend to think those people excel is because when you're on the streets and you've got nothing, you'd be amazed what you can talk somebody into doing, right? These people are hustling for money for drugs. They're hustling for food, for shelter with the dealers themselves. They've learned the art of using their mind and situational awareness to get them what they desire. And that once you have that skill and you realize the power of it, it's inevitable you'll apply it somewhere.
Yeah. So, Luke, I always think of like when I want to recruit from various industries, my top three industries to recruit from are car sales. I'm like, yo, I know that if you fed your family for a period of time by walking the lot and having to self gen and you can close, etc. So, when you're on a car dealership and you own one, you own three, I believe, or more, but what industries do you like to recruit from if they don't already have car sales experience?
Bro, so that's a great question. And I don't know if you're going to like the answer, but I try to recruit from areas that are anything but sales. Okay. If there's one thing that I've
Whoa.
learned, the most difficult person to train is the old dog to give him new tricks, right? Not to say it couldn't be done. And that's honestly one of the reasons that I'm so proud of Paid to Persuade is one of the things that we're known for is what we call 60 to 100, meaning somebody that's been in the race a long time. They haven't broke 60 miles an hour. They're just kind of in there. They think they've got it figured out. We get them to break through and get them to actually reach their potential. But as far as new hires, man, salespeople that I have right now, I've got one prior salesperson that was ever in the car business. I've got one guy that the most selling he ever did was door to door with Terminex. But again, we know the strength of where door to door people come from. But the other people, we're talking bread delivery guy. We're talking guy that used to grow marijuana. We're talking about a security guard at a hospital that watched TVs for 80 hours a week. These are people that don't have any insight on what sales is supposed to be. Because, brother, if we're talking, brass tacks, I truly believe what most people think sales is the absolute opposite of what it is, right? People think that sales is persuading someone, showing them a product, building a relationship, talking value and features and benefits, and then close, and then objection overcome, and then close, and then objection overcome, and then close. And that it can go that way sometimes. But what I've discovered is that if somebody is trained properly, they can eliminate almost the entirety of objections at the outset of the conversation. To where
Amen.
at the end, they're really just kind of talking about a few maybe feature, warranty, competitor objections and moving to strike. So I like to get green peas, man. I like to get green peas, train them in the P2P framework, and that's the most success that I've had.
Dude, I love that. We share a lot of similarities in our sales thoughts and processes, and we say some of the things differently, and then some of them you're completely in a lane that I'm really admiring and looking at on the thought processes. But we always train like owning the objection before you have to rebuttal the objection. And we all know what's going to happen. Like, and no matter what product, you only have a handful of objections you're going to get every single time. And so to be able to kind of cover that on the front end and, like you said, address it is huge. I want to go back to your 60 to 100. I love that mindset. Do you find that some of it's ego that prevents people on their own going from 60 to 100 because they think they know it all, and that's why it's better to start somebody fresh out and take them to 100?
Scott, not only is some of it ego, the majority of it is ego. That is the fundamental problem usually when it comes to that.
Yeah. All right, cool. Localized car dealers. So I'm in the REI space. My dad was a roofer they got married at 16, no, pregnant at 16, married at 17. My grandfather was a roofer. My dad was a roofer.
Mm,
When I was like 17 years old, he got a job selling cars.
okay.
And then boom, skyrocket, like literally. And he was in that Tony Robbins phase of his life as a young man. And so it was really cool, but I got to witness it. But something I realized is where I was at in Virginia, it was like pools of mediocre used car sales places. And so I started to get this understanding, like we would go and travel to other places that he had part of a franchise. And it was just, I don't know. It's like a shared loserdom. Like there could be a town where everybody's weak in car sales, so all of them are weak. But then you would
Yeah.
go over here, and then everybody's better. And so, like, I just wonder how localized is car sales. Like, if you have one dominator, does that mean everybody raises up, or is it?
I love that question. I love that question because that question solves so many things that aren't even relative to sales. That's more of a prophetic question, okay? So you're in my opinion, and it is a humble one, but I believe you're onto something there, okay? Which is, and in Syracuse, New York, where I'm from, we kind of say something when somebody only plays to the level of the competition or only does portion of what they're capable of because they're kind of working up to the temperature of the water. We say they're playing SU basketball because we have a tremendous basketball program here, but it always seems like, when they get the exhibition game with the Division II Colgate squad, they win by 2, or when they go to the national championship playoffs, they win by 2. It's like no matter what, they're just kind of playing to the level of their competition. And I'm not breaking the chops of SU basketball, man. There's some legends that have come out of there, Carmelo Anthony and many others. But what I am telling you is that culture is real, right? So in our area, you're talking there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4 other dealerships that do their late model used car sales like we do, independents, that are just vicious. I mean, the guys that run these stores are
Ah,
killers. They're guys that, we're all like super friendly and high-fiving and bros at the
sure.
auction. And then we all go to our respective huddles and we're like, oh, come on, we got to kill him. Even though we just high-fived and said hi. And we all understand that it's not like a two-faced thing. It's more of like, we love each other, but we hate each other because what's he doing and what's he
Yes.
doing? And it's just this culture of, wanting to be the best, wanting to aspire and be the alpha guy, right? So you're always going to have that ecosystem, I think, in those respective places, right?
Yes.
In those worlds. But the problem is when the top guy, the legacy guy, is only operating at 7 out of 10, well, then I'm satiated being 6.5 out of 10 because I'm a strong number 2, right? And that's the way a lot of people think. And this is why I share with my guys on my team. I say, guys, don't look at the rankings, please. Don't look, because what you're going to end up doing is you're going to bring your capabilities back. Because if our number one competitor, the legacy guy, the guy that's been here for 20 years and crushed it for 20 years, if you start thinking, well, as long as I do what he's doing or just over what he's doing, I'm incredible. And better yet, if I do almost what he's doing, well, I haven't been here as long, so I'm still doing great. No, bro, fuck that, pardon my French. But we are here to dominate. We are here
Amen.
to reach our potential. If my potential is half of what that guy's is, it doesn't matter what he's doing, does it? Well, no, technically it doesn't. Well, what if my potential is double what he's doing? Now, if I've only done 2 units more than him, am I still winning or am I losing because I'm only doing half of what I'm capable of? So one of the things that we preach in P2P is reaching a salesperson's potential. We commit to you that whatever the gas is in your tank, we'll teach you how to spend every last damn drop of it. And I think when you look at those respective ecosystems that you're talking about, you will find everybody's playing to the level of their competition. That's why they are so uniquely different.
And that's why joining something like P2P or Pay to Persuade becomes so important, because you are the equal of like your 5 closest friends. Well, in the business world, you're mirroring those people around you. And if you don't have this outside talent source or you don't have this outside direction, you're just going to follow. I mean, listen, you can go into a sales track, and if all you do is learn from the people around you and you don't go seek that outside guidance, you're just flat out limited. So we're on the same page there. Talking about the old salty dogs. When I think of like the old school rock star sales guys, I think of old school smoking cigarettes, khaki pants, nice little dress shoes, button ups. When I say old salty dog car salesman, what name popped into your head? And tell me about him for a second.
Arturo Giuseppe Colagiovanni. That is the old
Woo!
multi-dollar baby. Artie Colagiovanni, okay, who will probably never see this podcast because, yeah, I don't, he's got to be in his
Yes.
70s by now. But Artie's the kind of guy, you would see Artie, he'd have his hand in his belt like this. He'd have a Marlboro 100 light. The cup of coffee. Oh, Lukey, we got to get out. There's deals out here, baby. We got to hawk this. Like, go grab it up, bring it over to me. You bring me one, I'll give you two. Come on, let's work this thing, buddy. And these people would come in and, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? And he was the kind of guy that everything was a mumble, right? He would say 2 or 3 words that had any sort of, hey, how you guys doing today? Good. You want to look at some cars? Sit down for a minute. And you know what I mean? He was that guy. But he was the salty dog, man. You're talking, he had the buttons that had like the pearl face on them in the shirt with the heavy stitching. And he had the pants that were like gabardine cloth and the cordovan shoes with the matching belt and the coiffed hair with the Ray-Bans. He was the Frank Sinatra of car sales in Central New York.
Confident in every way, baby. Didn't
You
matter
can
right
tell
or
him
wrong.
anything.
Confident in every way. Yeah, we had a
100%.
guy, his name was PJ Lachance. So same thing,
Okay.
and they emphasized that name. He was a French guy, and he had these eyebrows that looked like caterpillars that died. And he was like in his 70s, and he just never but he would come to the table, and he was so slick and so beautiful, and it was good watching these guys because they're in the zone, and then it felt generational. It felt like, all right, I won't be that when I get older, but I will take some of these characteristics. And one of the things, dude, he had memorized that at that sales campaign, we were meeting people from different parts of the country, mainly Eastern
Weird.
Seaboard. But he had memorized like every governor for sure, every major mayor. And then he would just act, oh yeah, and I know. And it's just the amount of credibility. I'm like, this guy's probably never even been to Maine, but yet he's telling people that he knows the governor or the local mayor or whatever it may
Yep.
be.
Yep.
So it's good. I have another question about car sales. Oh, actually, you reminded me. What's that movie, The Goods? Live Hard, Sell Fast. You ever seen that movie?
Yeah, sell hard. Don the goods ready.
Yes. Oh my
In baths.
God. I
Yep.
make them watch that when they onboard here. We got Wolf of Wall. It's like number 4 down, but I make
Tell
them
me you
watch
got
that movie,
Boiler
by the
Room
way.
in there somewhere.
Bro, you have no fucking clue. My Acura 2.0, whatever one I had when I was slinging timeshare, I had the DVD player that folded out. This was when I was 21. It would have Boiler Room in it. I had the boiler. I swear to God, this is the gospel, Luke. I
Yeah.
had the original printout for years. Every word from the Boiler Room movie. I had the entire transcript.
I
I'm
love
I'm
it.
I'm
I
all
love
about
it.
that. Yeah.
I
Dude,
drive a
so
Ferrari 358, baby.
cabriolet. Okay, cool. Cars over the phone. Are cars sold over the phone? Is that a thing? Is it upgrades are done over the phone? Walk me through the phone side sales of cars, if that exists.
It does. So there's two. That's a loaded question, right? So the first thing I'm going to say is I'm going to pay respect to the new car industry. When we say car sales, I'd like to draw a staunch line in between new car and independent used car sales. Two very different worlds, but also very much the same, right? It's like ballet and gymnastics, completely different things, but there's a lot of things that draw parallel. New car sales, a lot of it's done on the phone, a lot of it's done on the internet. Independent used car sales, still heavy on the internet and phones, but not quite as much so. But as far as the phone thing is concerned, I think there's deals that are done on the phone. For instance, my guys, if they like, my guys are sharks, man. I know your guys are too. If I get a guy that's at one of my locations and somebody calls his location on a car that's at another location, and that person's out of state, not planning on showing up to the showroom, they're not saying, oh, we'll call the other store. They're selling them the car off the website, taking a deposit over the phone and doing the deal. So it is there. But I want to make sure I differentiate because, there's times where it makes sense to sell a car over the phone.
Yep.
But there's also a philosophy that I have in car sales that I call having two jobs, meaning the salesperson has two jobs. Number one is a telemarketer. The other is a salesperson, meaning when you get an inbound lead, or even if you're making a cold outreach in the car business, you should set the appointment and get captive audience, meaning get that warm body over the threshold through the door where you have control of your whole ecosystem. Because when you're selling over the phone, man, you can quote price, payment, terms, then that person's just going to go, okay, great, I'll see you in a day. And then they go shop everybody else with those same price, payment, and terms. You're at a gross disadvantage, right? So cars are sold over the phone still to some extent. If I'm training and teaching a rookie salesperson, if that customer lives anywhere within 60 minutes of our dealership, get them across the threshold, do whatever's necessary, because then, it's a numbers game. So your chances of gross profit increase, your chances of including after sale products increase, your chances of getting a referral for them bringing another person with them that you can also sell a car to. You just move the needle in your favor so much.
Dude, I think about what you're saying there in phone sales and the follow-ups. And so I'll tie this back into the reason I got into the REI space. I had already made a shit ton of money selling leads to attorneys nationwide. That got up and then blew up, did what anyways, it was frowned upon evidently. And after that was done, I said, "Oh, I got an REI space." But when I got into it, what I did is I called like these local markets and I would fill out forms on websites. And then like some people would take 2 days to call me back, 3 days. I could tell none of them really had a script or a methodology. And I was like, domination. I'll go into this space and I'll fucking crush all these guys because they just didn't have sales fundamentals or principles. What are the follow-up sequencings like? Like, just in case we can't lock them in, do most car dealerships, if it is a today only offer, as most times it's positioned that way, is there money in the follow-up on car sales? Getting them back in and calling?
So there's percentages that go with that, and it depends on the type of customer that you have. But of course, that doesn't pay respect to the percentages. So I can tell you that what I share with my salespeople is when they're no longer captive audience and they walk out the door, you're done, right?
Zero.
It is damn close to it right now.
Yeah.
Then you'll get the salespeople of the world that have that one straggler here or there that really just truly needed to go transfer money, or really just,
Yeah.
the problem is those are exceptions to the rule, right?
Yes.
And now we're kind of weaving back into that veteran salesperson. I've got the ego, old dog, new tricks. It's
Yeah.
like that same person that says, well, I don't agree with that because I just had one the other day that I was able to get back in here and wrap up. It's like, okay, if you had to bet your life on the fact that guy was coming back. Furthermore, you had to bet your life that the next 5 are coming back too. Are you taking that bet? Well, no, I'm not. So you don't like your own logic. Well, no, I don't. And that's the conversation that we usually have. But when it comes to car sales and follow-up, man, it's really very simple. You do as much as you possibly can to convert that sale when it's in your dealership. But when you are following up, there has to be a reason. When I train my guys, I always tell them, you got great news. You've always got great news. It's like, Wolf of Wall Street, or even in Boiler Room, I've got that one great idea, right? And it has to be valid. There has to be something behind it, some meat and potatoes to it, so you can say it authentically. But I've had guys that'll go into a test-driven car and grab a pen that's on the floor out of it, and then call the customer and say, Mr. Jones, I've got great news. Please give me a call back as soon as you get this message. Customer calls back. Yeah, you had great news? Yeah, dude, I found it. You found what?
Yep.
Your pink pen, the breast cancer awareness one? Yep. What are you talking about? The car that you test drove, the pink pen, we found it. I know what you're talking about. Okay, well, now I feel like an idiot because one of my salesmen was so sure that your kids had this pink pen and was just holding it like it was its favorite teddy bear. And when I found it in the car, I felt compelled that I had to call you and tell you we found. I'm totally sorry, right? Oh, okay. Well, now that I've got you on the phone, how you doing in that car search?
So I was blessed, Luke, my very first sales job, 20, and I was in this industry for like 10 years before I got into that lead sales, but was timeshare, which is only a today-only business. Like you're trying to crack people's skulls for $17,900 at 18% interest from a random person that hates you because they just want to spend 90 minutes and get on with their life. I really appreciate what that level of today sales only taught me and meant to me on a long-term basis, because it's like you get to position an offer so well. And you get to justify positioning an offer to request a decision. The one thing that we are all allergic to in my office are maybes. A maybe will kill somebody. There is no be back bus. And then what you were just saying about it, and that's why I was curious about your industry, is heavens forbid somebody's first, second, or third sale happens on somebody that comes back. Chalk up that guy's career. Because like you said, they're going to now think that that's just part of the normal numbers. Am I right?
No, 100%.
All right, cool. Now, I have some questions. I want to, without calling names, because now you're in the influencer space. You're Big Luke. Fucking muscles and guns is out. You know, you out here talking a lot of slick stuff about car sales. How did you, when you first got into it, without calling out names or whatever, I don't care, but how did you know the industry was fucked? Like the influencer space was fucked? Like what was the call tail sign where you were like, oh, this place is fucked?
When I realized that anybody who had several million followers was simply doing logic loops and overcoming singular objections in microphone drop, cutesy little, highly edited Instagram videos. And so like, it was kind of a process for me. First, I bought into it. Like, I'm like, oh, again, freaking six pack and screaming. I love it, man. I love the energy. And then over here was this guy, and then he's Uncle G, and he's got his university and the growth cut. Hell yeah. And then this guy over here doing his thing with his book of questions. And yeah, I love that. And you know, I want to pay the appropriate respects to these people because they are all tremendous, tremendous salespeople, or they would not be where they are, right? And it's very difficult to become that creme de la creme, top of the food chain, sales funnel king, right? It's a hard thing to do. So commend them for doing what they're doing. But the one thing I take issue with is calling yourself an educator when you are a marketer. Okay. And that is the difference that I see in the marketplace. Okay. I am the only sales trainer that I know of, and feel free to tell me if I'm wrong, that offers a monetary guarantee. If we do not move your KPIs to the numbers that we say we can do them after we audit your business, B2B, we guarantee 10%. B2C, we guarantee 20% without even looking at your business, okay? But we could even guarantee further than that. I haven't seen another guru that's willing to guarantee their results on the backside. So that's kind of your first indicator that something's fishy, right? And then when you really look at all these videos, it's like, you want to think about it? Okay, wasn't anything worth doing while we're doing today? Well, yeah, I guess so. And there it is. And they walk off and you're like, okay. Yes. He didn't hand you his credit card. How about we close the deal? Because he's going to say, is anything worth doing tomorrow worth doing today? Yeah, it is. Okay, well, let's do it. Yeah, not today. Well, you just said anything worth doing tomorrow's worth doing today. They don't show you that part, right? Or when we hand you the book that's got all the cool questions in it. Oh, that's great. I'm armed. I'm equipped. There's bullets in my gun. But he said no. Where's the section in the book that when he continuously says no, like what's the net? Like, is it just a never-ending series of questions? So the reason I think the space is fucked, as you put it, is it's turned into an entertainment gallery. It's not a source of information. And what I believe it has done at scale is it has tainted the marketplace. People look at sales trainers as entertainers, not people bringing knowledge, and they're willing to follow them to get entertained, but they're not going to them for their sales training. And that's a problem.
So, Luke, you remember in high school, you'd meet the guys that had gotten out of high school 3 or 4 years prior, and they would talk about their glory days. And they would be like, yeah, and then you would get past them. And, or it's like the old drug dealer. I used to get this for this back then. It's like, well, but you're not even in the space anymore. That to me was the most mind blowing thing. So you're already ahead of 90% of these guys because you still have active lots. You're still in the game. You still have a P&L that shows cars and inventory, and you're still training people live. The thing that gets me the most is the guys are like, well, I retired to focus on this. No, you retired because this shifted on you and you was like, oh shit, money bag over here versus having to actually work over here.
Or you
That's how
retired because all of a sudden your efficacy started dropping back and back, and your close rate started dropping back and back. And you said, well, shit, before I become the guy that made 2.7 million and then only made 650,000, I better exit on a high note. It's like that fighter that's got a lot more fights left in him, but he's walking off with the win. This is a great time to end my career. Now I'm going to go teach people how to fight. This is kind of the same. That's kind of the same thing, right? These people are ending at a high point, and once they hit that peak, it's like, oh, this is a great point for me to walk off the stage and call myself a hero. And that's something that we advertise, man. Is the difference between a trainer and a coach, right? A trainer gets introduced to the team, they give a few keywords, and then they're only called upon when there's a problem, right? The coach is there with you. He's still playing the game. He's still studying the game. He's still on the field. He's still getting clobbered when the team comes off and is getting tackled at the sidelines. Like, I consider myself a sales training coach, not just a sales trainer. And if there's a difference in those two things, it may only live in my head, but it's a significant difference from where I'm standing.
One thing that we're in alignment with just after watching some of your content and really kind of diving into this today, Luke, was authenticity. And I think, and I don't know anything about the car space, but just to put the final nail in the coffin on this topic, but in the spaces I'm associated with, the authenticity doesn't exist. And they have this word in our vertical called projected profit. And they're like, I got a contract today, and they sign a contract and it's projected for this. But these contracts in this industry have an 80% fallout rate or 60% fallout rate, just depending on the person. And so like I first came into the game just like you, and I was just like, oh shit. Yes. Like, look at all these guys, high five. Let me follow. And then I was like, oh, they're not talking about realized. Oh, they're not even talking about net. It's like, this is the truth, Luke. For almost all my adult life, I thought when a realtor said I did 4 million, they literally did 4 million. I didn't know you did 2%. Oh, you did 80,000 last year. Like, get the fuck out of it. I had no clue, Luke. I just thought everybody was honest about money.
Bro, I love this. I was talking to Brad Lee on his Dropping Bombs podcast, and he asked me a similar question to you asked, like, where do you take issue with these guys? I said, I take issue with a guy that used to run my ads and did a shit job. And then I saw him on a podcast with Ryan Pineda saying, yeah, we did, I think it was about 57 million last year. Yeah, it's like, what? And then what you learn is he managed ads to a total ad spend of $58 million for 137 different companies. So he handled a couple $100,000 in ad spend for 100 companies. Well, that's commendable. Well, that's incredible. You didn't do $58 million worth of business, bro, when there's 800,000 coming to your checking account every month. And the other part of that, bro, is why are we not satisfied if our company did $1.6 million? That's incredible. If you're selling $1 million houses, obviously 1.6 million isn't a great year. But when you're selling contracts or coaching or a tangible product, like, you should have no problem. Like, dude, my car dealerships, they're independent used car dealerships. They sell lesser, under $30,000 used cars in high volume at scale. We got 3 locations, and we do, $10 million a year in sales. There are new car dealerships that do $100 million a year in sales. But I'm perfectly okay walking into a crowded room and saying, I only do 10 million. I was in prison 10 years ago. It's a blessing that I'm even alive, right? I just think that we should start focusing on the reality of the situation, because this is kind of a feeling that I have, or a theory, whatever you want to call it. The FTC that would generally govern these types of things, or the I believe it's the FTC. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
But the Governance Association,
FCC.
The FCC, excuse me, not the Federal Trade Commission, the Federal Communications. Yes, thank you. So they govern ads, right? Historically, channels 3, 5, 9, Fox, when they would run ads, or car dealers would run ads, or businesses would run ads, and they said something disingenuous, or they gave a hyperbolic outcome, they would receive a letter, a cease and desist. Stop that commercial. Those aren't real results. The social media marketplace is so vast with so many nefarious actors, it can't be governed. So it leaves it up to the consumer to do the research. And if we know consumers like instant gratification, and they like hooks. And I just believe we're getting to a place, man, where no one's going to believe ads on social media anymore. And if you look now, every posts now have ads down in the subtext. Now they're in the frame. Now they're in the mark. Like, social media has become so inundated with advertising. And dude, if people are saying to you, if you own Meta and they're saying, hey, Zuck, I got about another 10 million I want to spend with you in ads, what are you going to say? No, we run out of space. No, you're going to make space. And what it does, man, it's just diluted the marketplace so badly. I think we're headed in a bad direction. I don't mean to sound like a doomsday prophet, but I think we're headed in a bad direction.
I don't disagree, but it does make honesty unique and transparency unique. And when you are unique, ultimately the swing back comes to that authenticity. And like I feel with some of the changes in both the political landscape and some of the awareness, maybe now we'll head back. And even if it doesn't, for the guys that see similarities in each other, it's a unique brand and they rock it and they have great families, they have great lives, have great houses, and they're not scamming anybody. So
We're very
you
much
talk,
aligned, bro. Just to that point, we're very much aligned.
yes.
I just got done saying to a couple of my employees the other day, I said, I want you to be prepared for about 3 to 5 years from now when the marketplace recovers and it starts looking for authenticity. It starts holding businesses accountable. It gets to the point that when you call them and try to sell them something, they ask you to send them a picture of your brick and mortar establishment with your staff working in it, because that time is coming. And I'm very aligned with what you just said. It will correct. And at that time, the people who are actually getting the job done will become very wealthy.
So you mentioned a few minutes ago about that you did 10 years in jail. Now I did
I
my
was in jail
diligence.
10 years ago.
10 years ago, excuse me.
Yes.
How long were you in jail for? And do you mind sharing with the audience exactly what happened? Because I think it's a crazy story.
Yeah, so you'd be amazed to hear that I only did 1 year for the bank robbery that you're referring to, but I did a collective time in jail. It was a little over 2 years for a total of probably 3 or 4 different crimes. What it was, man, is I was ruthlessly addicted to opiates, right? I was the guy who was kind of a dynasty car guy. Grandpa was a car dealer, dad was a car dealer. I was supposed to be a car dealer, didn't want to be a car dealer. So in the small town I came from, you either had to be a genius or play a sport, and I wasn't Einstein. So I got really good at football, put some size on, and I had a really good throwing arm. I could jump really high. So it was either track or football. I voted for, I went for football. It was a little more glamorous of a career. But towards the end of my senior year, I got what you would call a career-ending injury. I dislocated my shoulder on my throwing arm, just devastated that side of my body, and I lost the scholarship. So moving forward, it turned into, what do I do now? Then it was, okay, let's make some money in the car business. That turned into, 75 grand, for half of my 18-year-old career in the car business. And then by the time 19 hit, I was making 6 figures and it was off to the races. I didn't need anything else anymore. I had a 6-figure career. No one else in my family had done that before. But then I said, you know what? Money's great, but I miss football. Let me get the surgery. Let me go back to try football again. I did that. Surgery went terrible. Got real addicted to painkillers. And unfortunately, and with a family who had a strong history of addiction, the next 10 years of my life turned into just debauchery and craziness and drug addiction. So the culmination of that, and some of those stints in jail were along that process of getting worse and worse and worse and getting on house arrest and breaking house arrest. I think you'll appreciate this. I used to take the house arrest ankle bracelet monitor, plug it into a generator, drive it to the bar, plug it in at the bar, leave the monitor there so I could walk around the bar and have drinks and play pool. That's how bad it got, when I was in that stage of my life. But ultimately, it led to bank robbery. I was, unable to get drugs because I was out of money and I was in a really bad place. And I was too arrogant and narcissistic to commit suicide. So I said, I'll commit, career suicide and robbed a bank. What that did for me, man, is it got me sober. It adjusted my reality. It made me realize in a soggy, damp 6x8 cage in northern New York that I didn't want to live this life anymore. And on the backside of that, that's when, kind of a reinvention period of my life came. But yeah, man, collectively a little over 2 years in prison and a felony bank robbery is tattooed on my record.
Those 7 days between the bank robbery and getting picked up, what was the emotional roller coaster of those 7 days?
I stayed insanely high it was 5 days, and I say a week, it was 5. Yeah, it was Monday through Friday, and I stayed so high. I remember after the whole thing happened, I had the wad of money on me, and I called the guy that I bought my drugs from, and I gave him an insane offer to deliver me drugs, because I couldn't even, I was so in shock and just wound up. Had to meet me at the local grocery store, went into the bathroom, snorted a few Oxycontins or Opanas or whatever they were in that debauchery period of my life, and I got so elevated, with dopamine that it kind of made it go away. Like I still knew what had happened, but it kind of made it go away. And then I just realized, okay, as long as I stay viciously high every single day, I'm not really going to feel the pain and the boulder chasing me like Indiana Jones, But 5 days later, we left the laundromat and about 6 undercovers rolled up in the parking lot, and that's when it became really real. And then perpetually, as I became more sober, it all sunk in that this was not the best decision.
Yeah, I'm sure, bro. And dude, I don't know how to say this other than just saying it. The thing that I like the most about your story is you're not prostituting that part of your story. I see guys and gals out there that have similar journeys. I'm proud of them. I love them. I think everybody gets close to getting popped and goes just a certain amount of years in the United States. It's going to come and go. But then I see guys who go down that path, and I feel like they're prostituting that part of it and sensationalizing it, maybe even to a capacity to where it doesn't really dispel why not to. And so what I'm proud is I've heard that as part of your journey, but it's a small part of your journey. And the focus here is on how we can help people better their lives with your sales skills and your P2P methods. And so I number one, humbly, just like bro to bro, dude, thank you for sharing that. That's
Of
super
course,
dope.
man. I really appreciate that. We're very aligned on a lot of thinking, man. And one of those is that they glorify the negative period, right? And
Yes.
unfortunately, what that does to a young mind is says, okay, well, I can fuck around and go to jail and do drugs, and then I'll come out and be a killer salesperson. And they don't accurately depict the pain that they went through,
Yeah.
right? I was running around doing drugs and it was crazy. And sometimes I wish I was still in those days. Sometimes I don't, but I ultimately got better and got successful. It's like, no, bro, you didn't tell them about sleeping on the ground and waking up to somebody peeing on your arm because they didn't know you were there. Right? You didn't tell them about the fact that you had to go to the doctor and get medicated for a disease that you didn't think you'd ever get. Like, nobody wants to tell you about the real nitty gritty stuff, right? All the nasty, dirty, disgusting shit they did to satiate their addiction. So I don't implore that anybody goes down that road. One of the strongest lessons I think a human being can learn is to learn from someone else's mistakes. Let somebody else who has gone through the pain and gone through the devastation and says, don't do this, do that. Like, allow that tattoo that's on their soul to paint you the picture of why you shouldn't do that, and just listen to the bright side and do what they tell you to do. And that's something that I was famous for as a kid. Regardless of who I learned from and what their history was, I was always, had to do it my way. I was hard-headed. But man, if there's one lesson I could give anybody, it's don't be that guy. Like, you see somebody with success and they say go down the green path and not the yellow path, your ass better be walking on green grass, because otherwise you're just stupid.
Amen. All right. So now I got beef with you. Here
Okay.
we go. I heard you say in a podcast, and I'm going to paraphrase here because I don't remember what it said. But you said something along the lines, Luke, of like, I felt like you attacked my boy Zig Ziglar. Like, Zig Ziglar changed my life. And you said something about him and maybe Brian Tracy or something. You're like, yeah, but all those things are the old school way. And then this new way, and you kind of summarized what your version of the new way was. And in my world, my mental world, right? Not necessarily, but I think that, those fundamentals that existed in communication and persuasion existed before Ziglar, through my time, and will continue forward. Whether it be active listening, an empathetic ear, whether it be pausing, stimulus, pause, response. And so a lot of these fundamentals that I built my life off, right? Existed then when I learned them in the early 2000s all the way to today. So help me understand better when you say Zig Ziglar stuff is outdated or whatever. What you mean by that, Luke?
Well, so I don't believe I said I could be quoted
You
saying,
wouldn't have said outdated. You didn't say outdated. I threw
okay,
that one in, but you
I,
did say, you emphasized like it's the old
yeah,
school way, and now there's this new way.
100%. And what I was referring to was the process. Meet and greet somebody, display product or service, trial, close, overcome objection. Because that's what all those guys were. So there's a dichotomy here, right? So there's values and teachings that are timeless and they will never go away. And they were the fundamentals of the Zig Ziglars, the Brian Tracys, even the Earl Nightingales when they would talk sales stuff, right?
Yes.
That was the fundamentals. But you said something that you answered your own question, is those things existed and predated those guys, back to ancient
Bible.
biblical
Yes.
times. Exactly.
Yeah.
So what I was expressing, the sentiment that I was expressing, and allow me to clarify, is that if you're going to create a framework by which you operate, it needs to be relevant to the age that you operate in, right? So if something was created during a time where they didn't have the internet, they didn't have social media, they couldn't FaceTime somebody in Bangkok, Thailand, you might not want to base your learnings in that discipline. That doesn't mean that because we're now creating AI images, we shouldn't not go study Van Gogh and Da Vinci and the greats. But I don't think we should paint on the back of mule skin, right? Or cowhide, because we've learned that it doesn't survive the test of time. So I don't think there's any time you'll ever quote me not paying homage to the greats, and Zig was definitely one of the greats. But I would say that if you're going to create a framework by which you operate in your sales today, it should be relevant to the times.
And I feel, I could be wrong, but that's really, really relevant to your industry too, because, I'm sure there's still a lot of legacy car lots off operating on legacy systems, only dry erase boards, no appointment I mean, I don't know exactly how it works, but it just seems like because the industry's been around forever, very similar to the real estate industry. Like I just couldn't believe how old school these guys were doing things, and like you said, it was built off of this. So is some of that concern is like, hey, these guys are still doing the same pitch style from the 70s, 80s?
1000%, 1000%. And off the back of what you're saying. So, you said that you couldn't believe how outdated some of these techniques were and what some of these people were doing, but you have to consider, Scott, take yourself and hold yourself up against the rest of the marketplace. Is everybody doing what Scott Morris is doing, what Lamasu is doing, what Leads to Deals is doing? No, you're an innovator, right? You're part of the upper percentage of people who are effective in this marketplace. So when you go out into the broad expanse that is the marketplace, you're going to see that you're a leader for a reason. Okay. And
Yeah.
your methods and the things that you instill amongst your people every single day are innovative, and they get results that are far above average for a reason. When in reality, I came to the same realization, bro. I went out into the marketplace and started training salespeople, and I'm going into highly effective companies that are in multiple states that are franchising. And I'm like, you do what? And it's a rude awakening. But what it does is it reinforces the understanding that there's a necessity for what I'm doing in this marketplace, in this world today. Because if everybody, I went into Chat GPT and I asked Chat GPT to scour the internet for, I won't name names, but 3 of the largest evangelists of sales that you would see on social media right now. And I asked it to pull down their program. And then I fed it Paid to Persuade. And I asked it to also discover anything that was out there on the internet that it could discover about Paid to Persuade. And I said, of all of these methods, which would be most universally effective and applicable to business at large that could potentially improve sales worldwide? You know what the answer it gave me was?
Paid to Persuade, baby.
Goddamn right it did. And it didn't just give me the answer, it gave me reasons. It said,
Yeah.
Paid to Persuade finds validity in the deal, intent, and buying power at the outset of the conversation. Paid to Persuade gives a framework that's incredibly easy to follow. Paid to Persuade roots out objections at the outset and allows people to lead them to a non-objectionable close. And when they do have objections, it teaches them a very fundamentally simple way to do that. And then I asked it why the other sales training programs would be less effective. And it ultimately told me they were all the same. They all taught you to meet a customer, greet a customer, qualify a customer, show and display a product, and then overcome objections. And it was like, dude, it's pretty revolutionary just getting the objections that are like, we call it the triple threat: time, money, third party. These things are going to live every sales conversation, okay? And if you don't get rid of the triple threat at the outside of the conversation, it's going to be the one safety valve your customer has at the end of the conversation. Like, how do I push back on your morality as a salesperson? I'd like to think about it. What's a salesperson going to say? You shouldn't think? I'd like to talk to my wife. What am I going to say? You shouldn't talk to your wife. So if you root out those objections at the outset, you really only deal with product-based or fear-based objections at the end. And those are the easiest to deal with if you know your product. So I apologize for my little rant there.
Bro, we could go super long, and I'm trying to now like prioritize the questions that I have
Sure.
left, but I want to, I'm just going to go to the next one in order. So I think that you danced a little bit with me when I was going through some of your content about like free flowing versus the scripting. And I guess giving them the tools to be free flowing is how I felt that you were more on the free flowing versus the scripting. Now, for me as a teacher and trainer, we're like, hey, here's the framework. Here's like the hot bars that we want you to say, but we need you to sprinkle your personality on top. Since you're more free flowing, do you at least have a structure or like a wireframe that you say, hey, you need to do this in every sales meeting or call?
1000%. We call it the big 3, the big 3 and the triple threat. You big 3 and you solve for the triple threat. And dude, I mean, I can tell you what it is right now. Unless you have in-depth insight on how to implement it, it's something that when you can get a little better, but it requires more iteration to perfect. And it's what brought you here today? What is your buying power? And what did you hope to accomplish? And then out of what brought you here today, you solve for time, money, third party. Now, it's important that I highlight this is designed for tangible asset sales, right? So cold outreach, selling a like these are all things, and we sell across all verticals, all industries. I have people selling high ticket coaching. I have credit card companies. I have roofing contracts. I have everybody. But if we just give them the framework and tell them to deploy it, they're not going to understand. But the reality is you simply need to find out, like, what's the intent? Why are you here? Why did you call me? Why did you take my call? Like, what's the intent here? And then solve for time, money, and third party at the outset. And then eventually unearth buying power. Do they have the ability to engage with me today? And then what is their intent? What do they hope to accomplish? Those things are the framework, and they allow a person to, as you put it, sprinkle in their own personality and iterate themselves. But
Nice.
to answer your question at a more fundamental level, scripts are deadly, okay? And I say deadly in a bad way. Why? Because
Exactly.
there is a statistic, and it's from Salesforce, and it's also reiterated by HubSpot and I think Forrester Research. And they discovered that when a salesperson is scripted, meaning reading, the customer's mirror neurons and their empathy center subconsciously detect it, they disengage at a rate of over 70%. So simply, like, if you're holding a script and reading off of it, you're fucked, okay? Now, is that to say everybody listening is like, well, my guys read off a script every day and they sell? Of course they do. But I promise you, your needle is not pegged. You're not getting as much as you could be getting. And that's what my goal is to get you the absolute maximum result and the peak of your potential. Now, what you said is incredibly important. You have to, not only should you have to have a framework. Two very significant reasons. Number one, you will be grossly inconsistent. If you're not sticking to a framework, you can never have consistency. And if you don't have consistency, that leads to the other flaw. You can't have measurable results. How do I know I'm getting better or I'm getting worse if I'm not adhering to the same framework? So if you want to be able to have KPIs and determine if your sales team is doing good or bad, you better have a framework.
I need to get some type of damn button when somebody says something hot, like I need balloons, confetti, or something. You literally, if you don't have measurable results, you will never grow. There's nothing you can do. Speaking of measurable results, I want to ask you a question though. When you go into a sales shop, right? First, we're going to talk about the management level. What is the number one thing that you see that people are making a mistake from a sales management level?
They're not holding their salespeople accountable. They're buddies. They're friends, right? So when they go out to TO a deal, they're more validating the fact that the customer can't buy than that they can buy. Well, sounds like Stevie here did everything he could. I just wanted to come out and say a quick hello and shake your hand before you go. It's like, no, bullshit, man. He didn't do anything right. If well, I'm getting a little excessive there. There's something that he missed fundamentally if you're not closing that deal. And what we learn, especially deploying the big free framework, is when you go out and TO a deal, and I'm referring more so to a TO, which I believe is a manager's responsibility. And would you agree 100%. That on a sales floor, if you don't have a TO manager, you're fucked?
Yeah, it needs to be a turnover track. Every sales floor, everywhere.
Everywhere, right? There's no reason not to. And it's the numbers back that up to the end of the earth. So when a guy's going out there and he's simply a buddy trying to validate, yeah, I was a shitty up buddy, don't worry about it. It's detrimental to your salesperson, okay? What you're doing is reinforcing for them it's okay to not follow the rules. When you go out as a manager looking at TO, you should be convicted and on a tenacious path to try to unearth what it is your salesperson did wrong and close this deal. And even if you can't put the deal together, still figure out what they did wrong. Why? Otherwise, you're not doing shit for your sales guy. You got to improve him. You got to lift him up. And if all you do is just pat him on the back all the time, everybody's going to die together. But when you can have that difficult conversation and poke and prod, you can improve your salesperson. That's the job of a manager, man.
Bro, I literally, if I didn't have cameras on here, I may have flipped the desk when you gave that answer. I fucking love it. When people say, hey, like, what's your sales superpower or whatever? Literally, it's accountability. That's it. We don't hide numbers. Everything's super transparent. We're focusing on the bottom people. I mean, everybody knows where everybody's at. Any sports team, you would know that. And like you said, it's if you're not having that accountability, you're not steel sharpens steel, buddy. Like, we got to be pushing each other and we got to be elevating. So I'm 100% with it. And for everybody out there, TO track stands for like turnover. And so that's that second voice. And no industry does it better than car sales itself. And that's typically when the guy gets up and gets the finance manager or whoever it may be. We've all experienced it in one version or another. So that's the sales management. And I'm sure we could go on a long rant about other things, but now I want to talk about sales agents.
Scott, can I ask you one thing for the managers out there real quick? Take 10 seconds. To the managers out there that aren't TOing deals, grab a hold of your bootstrap and go TO your deals, okay? And furthermore, when you are TOing the deals, to the guys that are doing it, you release your customer. please. Okay. What you're doing is you're going out there to a customer like this. And for the people that are listening and not looking, I've got my hands up covering my face like Floyd Mayweather. Okay. Your customer is guarded. They are on guard. They know why you are out there. The first words out of your mouth should be, hey, Mr. Customer, so we're going to get you out the door here real quick. Don't worry. You're not in any danger of buying anything. But before all of our customers leave, we like to just ask a few quick questions. Then they go, oh, no danger of buying anything. Oh, and for those of you who are just listening and not watching, I'm pulling my hands down across my face and I'm putting them back in my lap. Because when you tell me I'm in no danger of buying anything, and you tell me you're letting me go out the door, and you say something like, Steve, do me a favor, grab their keys, go warm their car up for them real quick. It's frigid out there. Okay, guys, just a couple quick questions. Now, all of a sudden, you're this kind manager coming out just to ask a few questions, why this didn't work out. And your customer becomes like so authentic and kind at that point, you'd be amazed. You just did them a favor. You just released them. You just gave them everything they're looking for, which is the ability to leave. You want your customer to pour their heart out and tell you the true pain that you can actually solve. It's going to happen in that moment. So thank you for that, Scott.
Bro, we're going to stick on it now. You don't open up Pandora's box.
Now,
Another one of the psychological benefits by having the TO is you got to understand your customer spent X amount of time with you, 30 minutes with you, 45 minutes with you. They've told you a lie that they would be disgraced if they then told you differently. We can only afford 38,000. We can only afford 38,000. They have now boxed themselves in by bringing that second voice. And if you can, always move to the customer side of the table, because now it's you and the customer, against, if you will, the TO or whoever's going to come in. But just the ability for that customer to go, you know what, we could do 41, we could do 42. It's amazing because they're no longer locked into that lie because you're not the focal point anymore. The new body is. And so
bro,
that's
your
what I
people
find.
need to repurpose that into a short form clip, and you need that button and confetti to hit on yourself, because that was a bomb right there, bro.
All right, cool. Now let's move to the agent, brother. What are
Let's
some
do
of the
it.
things that you see for the agent that they're common mistakes in the car space?
Okay, when you say for the agent in the car space, what do you
Your
mean?
agent, the sales guy, because we just talked about
Oh, the
sales
car.
management
Okay, yeah.
doesn't.
That's okay. We train some insurance agents and real estate agents. So I
I'm
was
a
just
sales
making
rep,
sure.
I guess. What do
Yeah,
you guys
yeah,
call them?
whatever.
Reps.
The boots on the ground. So, what is the biggest mistake? Well, the biggest mistake is that they don't adhere to a framework. They're out there having a conversation. They believe their job is to sell the customer something. I'm going to talk you into buying this thing. When if they would just understand their job is to be a goddamn detective, then life would go a lot easier, right? And I call it tickle talk, right? So if I just go out there, hey guys, how you doing? What brought you here today? Oh, we're looking for a car. And just so you know, Scott, I train across, I want every listening. I own car dealerships, but I train across all industries with efficacy through the roof in every one of them. So, but for instance, the car business, what brought you to the car dealership? Oh, we're looking for a car. You're right. That was a silly question, Mr. Customer. Everybody's looking for a car at a car dealership. But, a few minutes ago, you put that left-hand blinker on. You pulled in here at 12:01 p.m. What was the reason for today? Oh, Steve's off of work today. Oh, look, I just discovered a portion that will help me overcome a time objection. Steve's off of work today. Okay. Oh, no kidding. Steve going fishing anytime soon? Oh, no. Oh, so today's committed to car shopping? Yes. Okay. Well, the process here usually takes about an hour, hour and a half. Are we good there? Yeah, that's fine. Great. We've eliminated time. Done. Okay. So when you guys went out searching for cars today, what was it that you were looking for? Oh, we're looking for maybe a 4-wheel drive, a pickup truck. I gotcha. Okay. And what made you come to Smith Motors? Oh, well, you guys have one online. Oh, okay. So there's one in particular that you're looking for. That one's priced at $38,990. Is that kind of the price range you guys are looking for? Kind of under 40 grand? Yep. Okay. We solved money. And you guys are already pre-approved with your credit union. You're all set to go. You've already worked the numbers, got the payments. Oh, no, we're not quite there yet. Oh, okay. Would it be helpful if we got you some information on pricing and payments today based upon your credit profile? Yeah, that would be helpful. Okay, great. We'll get that for you. Great. Now we've discovered that they don't have any buying power. They haven't gotten any approval. They didn't say, oh, no, we're paying cash, because we made an inferred statement. And if we're a good salesperson, I know if I say, Scott, you wear orange because you love Halloween, right? You go, no, I wear orange because that's the color of Leads to Deals podcast. Oh, okay. And when somebody pushes something down our throat that's not true about us, our response is to push it back out and force down your throat what is true, right? It's called an inferred statement. So, okay, so we're looking for something under 40, need a little help on the financing. Guys, just so you know, we have what we call 3 types of lenders in the automobile industry. There are prime lenders, full spectrum lenders, and subprime lenders. The prime lenders deal with like 740 plus credit scores, people who've had many car loans. Then the full spectrum lenders, that's where most people fall. Those are kind of in the middle, maybe a blemish here, there, maybe a high credit card bill, but they're still making their payments. And then there's the subprime banks, which are under 640. Those people generally know who they are. What banks do you think we should look to try to facilitate your loan today? Oh, we're prime. We're at 803. Okay, great. No problem. Awesome. established buying power. Okay, perfect. And I see the Mrs. and the Mr. are here. Is the car for you guys? Is it a family automobile? It is. Okay. So all decision makers are kind of here because that's generally when you get the best deal. Oh yeah, we're all okay, great. Time, money, third party, done. Go show them a truck, start moving to strike. It's very, very simple. And
Is
no, go ahead.
is all that happening relatively rat-a-tat-tat like that? Are you sprinkling other amounts of rapport in there? Is that all happening like at the meet and greet, like right there? Are you taking it where visually? Where's that length of
It's
conversation
not
happening?
one way or the other. It's conversational. Okay. So
Okay, great.
a guy whose arms folded, standing here just like this, it might happen in the first 5 minutes. But if you sprinkle in a little bit of Mr. Customer, it looks like you're kind of in a hurry today. I want to be as efficient with your time as absolutely possible. Is that all right with you? Well, yeah, it's okay. It'll be good. Next question will be dot, 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 dot. We're not playing 20 questions here. It's just that you don't look like a kind of guy that wants to spend an hour at a car dealership. Am I correct? No, you're correct. Okay. So then by this question, that'll help me move quicker. Right? Benefit request. It's all, Scott, when you take a step back, right, and you get in a helicopter and you fly over the top of it and you look at it, it is Brian Tracy. It is Zig Ziglar. It is Dale Carnegie and How to Win Friends and Influence People. But if you take those fundamental components and you weave them into 2025, that's where the significant success comes from. And you asked me what the biggest malfunction of salespeople today is, they don't have a framework. They believe show a product, build rapport, sell value, overcome objections, close deal. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, are most used car sales agents independent contractors? Do they get base salaries?
So, okay, so independent contractors meaning paid 1099 or just meaning are they commission only?
Commission only. That's what I was looking for.
So there's a good tip to the owners and managers out there. If you're getting ready to hire a salesperson and you say, I've got two choices for you. I can pay you $400 a week salary and I can pay you 10% commission, or I can pay you no salary and I can pay you 12.5% commission. Which would you like? If the guy says, no, keep the salary, give me the higher percentage, that's the guy that you want, right?
Yeah.
100%. But I think it really depends on where you're located. If you're in Miami, Florida, you get anybody to come in there for working, to work for commission only. You got nice cars, you got nice weather, you got a lot of curb appeal. There's a lot of opportunities. You're in Central New York in the middle of the winter, you probably need to give a guy a ham sandwich every week in order to get him to stick around.
Yeah. Do you find that in the car industry for the weaker guys who maybe don't have the framework, is there any issues with just not asking for the business? Like, is that like every other industry out there? So many salespeople just don't ask to sign up?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because to augment my answer to the previous question, yes, that's an issue as well. I tend to reflect on guys that I train regularly, and those guys are so far past that it's in the rearview mirror. But if we're just talking about the average salesperson that's going to work every day, yeah, a lot of times they just don't have the balls to step up and ask for the deal. And that's another thing that I teach in P2P and a piece of content that I just put out on social media. Signs that you're not a good salesperson. One of them is if you're not asking for the deal in the first 5 minutes of conversation, if you're not just going for a quick, easy strike, then you're not a highly effective salesperson. Because what most people don't know is when you're working with tangible assets, 90% of your buyers have made their decision before they ever walk through the door. Not that they're going to buy from you today, but that they are buying. So it's like having like the football on the edge of the goalpost, just kind of hovering on its point. All you got to do is just kind of give it a little flick and over it goes. You'd be amazed. Probably 1 in 10 customers, if you just said, hey, so you're looking at the red one? Yep. Do you want me to go ahead and just get that written up so you can take it home today? Yeah, let's get that done. People would be amazed at how many people would just say yes. So asking for the deal, yes. Very, very
I
big.
I got to think, Luke, when you get people who are shoppers bouncing around from lot to lot, when you're confident in what you do, you love that because you know that they've just met 3 or 4 salesmen, but they didn't meet a closer yet. And this guy's already done everything except for actually ask for the business. And so guys like you got to love that, right?
So that's like having people go to 3 houses and getting slapped across the face and then asking if they'd like a hug. It's the easiest thing in the world, right? They've got all the information. They've been teed up and tried to be struck on by a bunch of TO managers. They've been mishandled. And if somebody is still out shopping after 2 or 3 visits and they're in the car market, they are ripe for the picking, brother. So you are absolutely correct.
Cool. I saw your podcast with you and Ty Lopez. Out of curiosity, what was your own personal biggest takeaway from meeting him and then doing that podcast with Ty?
So own personal takeaway is that my perspective on marketing needed some adjustment. Marketing has not been my strong point. Sales and closing deals has been my strong point. But when you open a sales training company and you're trying to, survive and thrive in the social media ecosystem, There's a lot to learn, and walking away from a conversation with Ty Lopez was a very eye-opening experience. I can tell you that a lot of people have notions about Ty from things that they've heard or read or seen, and I can tell you it's just like anything else, man. Until you've heard it from the lion's mouth, it's only worth the paper that it's written on. This is a guy that is an incredibly effective marketer. He has made millions and millions and millions of dollars. And my goal in meeting Ty Lopez was to sit down with him, have a conversation, and learn something and make him aware of me and my personal brand. And we got that accomplished. But the majority of my takeaway were very common sense marketing things that I already knew the logic. I had just never applied it to marketing at large before.
It was probably one of the most beneficial podcasts that I've watched in a very long time. And it was that second half on where you started to loosen up. And then it turned into almost like watching a mentorship live coaching type thing, because some of the concerns that you have that I share about authenticity in the space, and do you call people out or not? And then how do you, not be boring, but be truthful, and then entertainment versus like passion and all those things. I really did it. It was very, very beneficial for me. So I wanted to say, thank you for going out there and having such an amazing podcast. And then one other big thank you. You said a comment in it about something about it's your follow-up messaging talking about, hey man, I got some really good news for you. I literally messaged my revitalization guy. His name's London. I was like, London, send me a copy of the text you're sending right now on the revitalization campaign. I did not have that sentence anywhere in that. I was like, yo, I got this kid on there. I swear to you, within 4 minutes, okay, cool. What's up with the price? Did it change? Blah, blah, blah. He's been working the piss out of that. He's been sending me screenshots. It's working fire.
That's
So
awesome,
it's
brother.
like, hey, Pete, it's London over at Lamasu, the enrollment director. Hey, man, I got some really good news for you. 100% emojis. Give me a call as soon as you get this message. It's been flying.
Bro,
I
bro.
appreciate it too.
I love hearing you say that because it's so funny because you're a lion, right? You're getting it done. Multimillionaire businessman, doing it, eating the shit that salespeople eat all day and also crushing it the way people do every day. But you're a lion, bro. And I can't tell you how many comments there were when we repurposed those clips. No, 99% callback rate, my ass. This isn't going to work on anybody. And I'm like, man, all you little clowns in your mommy's basement, you keyboard warriors, get on the fucking phone and try to sell something. And then when you get a voicemail, leave that message and then go freaking take care of yourself in the back room because the shit works, right? When things are founded in the human condition, they don't not work. If you reach out to somebody that you've got warm contact with and you go, pattern interrupt, I got great news, urgency, call me back. They look at their phone and they go, well, this is different. This guy's been hitting me with the same shit over and over. Now there's actually good news. That's worth a shot. And that's all you got to do. You open up the conversation and you move to strike. So that was very validating for me, bro. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome, brother. All right, man. How can our followers, when people find this, how do they find out more about P2P? How do they follow you in your journey? Give us the scoop.
Thank you, brother. So to that, I just want to say this, historically on podcasts, I've been very meek. I've said, give me a follow on social media. And what I'm going to ask your listeners and your viewers to do is if they feel compelled to follow me after this, also, please share the content, okay? Share Scott's first. So he's your fearless leader, and then share mine. But because if you feel compelled, because what you heard today is what the marketplace needs to hear. These are the solutions. This is the reality of what's really going on and what's needed. It's not what sounds good, and it's not what makes a great YouTube reel with a mic drop and an explosion and a bunch of emojis. It's real talk. And this is what real salespeople need to hear. So on social media, it's Luke Lunk, LUKELUN, like November K, Luke Lunk. It's that on TikTok. It's that on all the meta platforms. It's that on X. And our YouTube channel is paid, the number 2 Persuade. And if you're interested in sales training, it's paidtopersuade.com. But I ask that you follow me if you like what you heard today. And please, any video that you're like, damn, yeah, that resonates. Just share that shit, man. Help your fellow salespeople get the gospel. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, get the gospel, get the realness, actionable sales tactics. Even me in my business took something, immediately started printing opportunities with it. And I think we have a lot of things that we're in alignment with. So it was a pleasure, Luke. I knew it was going to be good to be able to sit on here and talk with somebody whose sales had changed their life as much as it had changed mine, man. So thank you so much for coming on board.
It's been an honor to meet you, brother. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one, bro.